Can you please stop sharing the screen, Michelle?
I can.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, I'd like to warmly welcome our distinguished guest, His Royal Highness Prince Khaled bin Alwaleed bin Talal Al Saud, our beloved KAUST community and people joining us from outside. My name is Iman Al-Haji, a PhD student in Material Science and Engineering at KAUST, and serving as the President of Students for Sustainability. We Students for Sustainability aspire to drive change towards a sustainable future with positive impact. We initiated the Sustainability Seminar series with the support of our advisor, Anna Margarita, to raise scientific engagement on the complexity of sustainability. Now I'll hand it to our amazing moderator of this session, Michelle Havoc. To you, Michelle.
Great, thank you so much, Iman. Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle. I'm a PhD student at the Red Sea Research Centre and also part of Students for Sustainability. And I'm so greatly honoured to be introducing our distinguished speaker, His Royal Highness Prince Khaled bin Alwaleed bin Talal Al Saud, and conducting this interview. So Prince Khaled is the founder and chief executive officer of KBW Ventures, and he's the president for Sports for All Foundation in Saudi. He invests in an array of successful but diverse global businesses with an interest in transformative technologies. Consistently, his focus is on ventures and ideas at the intersection of innovation and economic stability. As a venture capitalist who advocates for and invests in food technology, including alternative proteins and cellular agriculture, Prince Khaled is extremely engaged with the food technology and food sciences industry, promoting emerging technologies that serve as potential solutions to food security and sustainability concerns facing today's global community. So I'm thrilled to be interviewing you today, Prince Khaled. I'm such a fan of you as a human being. I actually discovered your Facebook page before I came to Saudi. I was just researching vegan options here and how to be vegetarian. So yeah, I can't wait to dive in and get some more insight on your life and your and where your inspiration comes from. So thank you again for joining us. And for everyone, just a quick announcement, there is a Q&A at the end of our conversation. So please type your questions into the Q&A box and I'll read them out. So first of all, Prince Khaled, I'd like to start off by asking you some questions about yourself. Why did you go vegan? And was it a sudden change in your life or had the idea come to you before?
I think the most discussed word in 2020 and 2021 is "you're on mute." Good Lord. Thank you very much for having me. Please call me Khaled. But I'm really honored to be part of this program, and if I can contribute anything to my country, I'm more than honored to. And this is the perfect place to do it. So for my standpoint, it started about, I don't know, 8, maybe 10 years ago, something like that. I lose count, honestly, but it all started through health reasons. My thinking is that I needed to better my health through other ways than pharmaceuticals, which are not in any stretch of the imagination a healthy alternative or solution. They're a good way to guide you towards a healthy solution or manage, but at the end of the day, I totally believe that it's a dietary and a lifestyle a way of living. So slowly but surely, I changed into a pescatarian diet, which is just fish. And then I slowly moved into a whole food, well, actually just a vegan diet. And then I transitioned to a whole food plant-based diet, which really means I cut off maybe 90% of all the processed foods that one consumes. And it's been really well. I've changed that diet maybe, I want to say, but 24 months ago, something 18, 24 months ago. And I haven't looked back since, to be honest. I feel better, more vibrant, more alert. I'm not protein deficient, thankfully. So things are going really well.
Amazing. yeah, so comparing your life before going vegan, were you eating a lot of meats, and was it not similar to how you are now?
No, it wasn't similar. I was so before going vegan or going pescatarian rather.
Mhm.
I was very heavy on processed foods. You know, my thought of a healthy diet was, you know, cereal in the morning with some milk and stuff like that. Obviously, I'd also go through um, the traditional fast food chains, and then that radically shifted to thinking, no, I think I should be more healthy. I'm going to eat grilled chicken. And then obviously that morphed into, what the hell am I doing? This is totally not healthy. Into a pescatarian diet, and then I learned what's happening to the oceans and how we're overfishing and how there are a lot of byproduct or bycatch that we're contributing. We're absolutely eroding our oceans and destroying the ecosystem there, and it's something that I didn't want to be part of. Not to mention obviously the mercury issues that persist in fish. But that was something I just didn't want to contribute to, and I slowly moved away from it. But it was a heavy diet with chicken mainly and fish.
Great. And so for those of us listening who aren't familiar with plant-based diet, could you briefly give us an explanation of what it entails?
Sure. So a plant-based diet is somewhat similar to a vegan diet, so to speak. A vegan diet is not necessarily a whole food plant-based diet is similar to a vegan diet, and however, there are differences. So a vegan diet would you'd consume Oreos all day, and that'd be vegan. That's fine. Vegan donuts all day, that'd be fine. But a whole food plant-based diet is really just eating the whole foods as they were meant to be eaten, and having the least amount of processed foods as possible uh, in um, in your daily diet. So from my point of view, I think a whole food plant-based diet is really everything and anything that doesn't come derived from an animal. So I don't have any milk. I don't do any cheese. Honey, I don't do honey simply because I'm just not a fan of honey. But even recently, I've seen a few videos that really made me think twice about even consuming honey. Regardless of that, I'm just not a honey fan. So take it with a grain of salt if people don't like me saying you don't like honey, but I'm just not a big fan. Maple syrup is something I uh, I substituted with, and I'm lucky to be honest. You know, being in the region with the not Mediterranean, but the Middle Eastern diet, so to speak, and the Levant food, so to speak. It's really plant-based centric, to be honest. You know, there's a lot of stuffed the grape leaves. There's the beans. There's the okra. There's all sorts of the stews. There's all sorts of foods that you can definitely live off of that don't contain animal products. And I do this for many reasons. Obviously, we'll get into that later, I'm sure. But from my point of view, this is just the easiest way to live my life. It's just cause no harm and be as healthy as possible.
Mm-hmm. Well, grape leaves and okra sounds delicious.
Mhm.
You did touch on something I wanted to ask of you. Do you describe yourself as vegan or plant-based? And is there a difference between the two?
Well, yeah, because if you're plant-based, then I believe you'd mainly focus on dietary um, elimination of certain dietary elements. But if I were vegan or a vegan lifestyle, so I definitely contribute that to wearables, accessories, so to speak, and really being conscious on the fact that how you're contributing negatively to the environment and negatively to other beings. So, for example, in our offices in Dubai, we have a pretty spacious office, and everything is faux fur. Faux leather. Sorry, there's no. Imagine if it was faux fur. Jesus, but
Back to the 70s.
Exactly, yeah, shag carpets. Anyway, so it was a lot of faux leather, and no actual leather. Obviously, when it comes to my car, obviously, I'd definitely go for no leather in my car. For example, if I were to give my mom, I gave her, actually I did, I gave her a handbag, and it was from Stella McCartney, and Stella McCartney is obviously known to be 100% vegan leather. So I surprised her with that, and she was like, "Oh my goodness, you are you okay with having leather? Me wearing, having a leather handbag, like it's not leather." So it was a nice experience just to see people's reactions to how realistic and how much faux leather has grown and how it evolved rather. So that's really the difference, really, in my point of view.
Okay, well, that's super interesting. I was actually wondering if you had any, negative or surprising reactions from friends or family when you did go vegan. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, totally. It's not something that's common here in the region, I'll be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, here in the region, specifically Saudi, but I'll just speak generally in the region. The region suffers from a handful of severe illnesses that are pretty manageable when it comes to diet and when it comes to awareness, at least when it comes to physical activity too. Going to, I'm not sure, a gathering of some sorts, and then just mentioning to the person who invited me or whatever that, well, thank you very much, but I am vegan, so I'd love to have some options for me to eat also, because it's usually meat centric. But again, the alternatives are there, and they're so easy to find. You do get the original shock, so what do you eat? As if God's bounty has been limited to just animal products. There are far more fruits and vegetables, or variety of fruits and vegetables that are animals. So anyway, and grains and seeds and legumes. But anyway. But yeah, I do get a lot of questions, and it's inquisitive questions. They're not passive aggressive questions, so to speak, or anything. They're really questions that are really inquisitive. As wow, 9 years, 10 years, how do you do that? And then you'd explain to them what you substitute this for that, and pretty much you can eat anything that anyone else eats. Only you just have to get a little more creative with your diet.
Mm-hmm. Great. So, on that topic as well, you mentioned that a lot of places you go to serve meat, and it's a tradition, not just in Saudi, but in many parts of the world, are tied with the use of animal products and animals. Do you think that traditions should or can be changed?
Oh, I'm 100% certain that traditions do change, and they should change. I mean, traditions from now until 30 years ago, 10 years ago are different. 30 years ago are even a bigger difference. 50 years ago, even drastic difference. And don't get me started with even longer than that. So traditions change. I'm not saying traditions should stop. Definitely not, because that's usually the identification of a culture. But sure, you'd have some culture sensitivities onto certain types of change. But at the end of the day, that's just the reality of the world that we live in. There are a few sacrifices that one has to make for the greater good. And there are many contributing issues to the most pressing issue that we're having here on Earth that we're talking about, which is global warming. So there are some traditions that, one, you can forego, but two, you can amend. And from my point of view, honestly, it's a lot more of providing solutions rather than dictating behaviors. And that's just a beautiful way to summarize what I am trying to do throughout my life. I'm not trying to dictate to people how they should deliver their life, but for definitely just provide solutions on how they can amend the way they live their lives in a less harmful fashion without them knowing. Granted, a lot of people don't know what's happening in the world, especially with the overfishing, with the factory farming issue, with the wet market issues, and the sorts. Obviously, that's one part of it. There's the transportation issue. There's the factories issue. There's the buildings and the materials that are being built infrastructure issues, and a lot of things that are contributing to global warming. So tomorrow people go vegan tomorrow. That's not going to solve anything. I'll tell you this right now. And a lot of people wouldn't like to hear that, but that's just the fact of the matter. What is it? 18 to 15%. Well, it's 15 to 18%, 20%. There's another 80% that we still need to work on. This is what we're working on in KBW Ventures. Is we're really trying to focus on shifting behaviors as opposed to dictating them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. So you mentioned KBW Ventures.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if how you think that businesses can play a role in enhancing animal welfare, because currently the world does see animals as commodities, unless they're pets.
Yeah.
And if society benefits from that.
That's such a good point. I mean, I hear it every day, practically every day. I love animals. I love animals, and they're chewing on a chicken breast. I love animals. Well, you love pets. You don't love animals. So there's a big difference there. But regardless of that, let's put that aside. I've always thought that the key for corporations to change is for people to vote with their dollars. And I still do believe that in some fashion. But I don't have a lot of faith in that. That's because people are, we're inherently lazy, so to speak. We have our own set ways, and then we just plow through it. We have our own set of traditions, and we say, nope, we can't change that. That's tradition. And I think a lot of these changes have to come from top down. I don't think they should come from just the bottom up. But the sad reality is, in many nations, going from the top down means the people at the top are more likely being influenced by corporations, and corporations have specific agendas, bottom line agendas. So from my point of view, I think it has to happen through legislation, some form of legislation. And again, those are also people who are being elected, elected or chosen, or whatever the state of government that you're in is. So from my point of view, it really has to do with a hybrid of both. People need to vote with their dollars, but also legislation has to go forward with mandating companies to really not just put profits at the forefront of everything, because at the end of the day, profits can only take you so far. And then what happens when the irreversible issues come up here on Earth? There's no plan B. I'll guarantee you Mars is not a solution. So it's a great idea, and it's a great way to think about the forefront of how we can colonize. I'm 100% behind that. But at the end of the day, this is where we're going to rest. This is where we have to set our roots. So again, I think corporations have to have a mandate to do a lot more good than what they're doing right now. I 100% believe that people need to vote for their dollar, and then a few sacrifices have to be made at the end of the day. This is just the world that we're living. This is not something that we can just close our eyes and just hope it's going to work out on itself. It's just not.
So there's no planet B. I love that.
Yeah.
So some of the biggest corporations operating are food-related corporations. So do you think the current global food trends are sustainable, and where do you project the future of food is heading towards globally, but also nationally for Saudi?
That's a great question. So honestly, I think that our current food system is not sustainable whatsoever. The way that food is grown right now, and the way that we're utilizing animals to to get X number of calorie compared to X number of calories that they need to take in to give you, it's totally inefficient. And I don't believe that we have a sustainable food system at all. And I think that's why I was so excited when XPRIZE asked me to be an advisor at their Feed the Next Billion program, which is sponsored by Abu Dhabi. It is one of the greatest things that I thought I could be part of. I'm so honored to be part of that. And it's something that I take wholeheartedly, and everyone on the board is just an absolute rock star. We're really working together on we're working together hard and heavy and just taking a lot of time just to figure out what are these solutions and how are we going to meet these solutions. And again, I'm sure we're going to get into that later, but these are the things that I really do believe, how we need to eliminate cruelty. But by eliminating cruelty, we're definitely eliminating a huge contributor to the pressing issues that we have on our planet.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we'll definitely get into that. I wanted to ask you about your the way that you're contributing to making the world a more sustainable place. You can be described as a bit of a maverick business person. You make investments in a few sustainable companies and startups. So you mentioned it a bit before, but is there a way that you choose the companies that you invest in?
Well, that's a great question. So at the forefront, I'm a venture capital company. Sorry, we're a venture capital company. You know, it's all about the bottom line on every company that we invest in, or else it's not a business. So just to make it clear, we're not going to invest in a company that has no profits, but it's contributing positively to the environment. That's not an investment. That would be a charity that we would give out. So we do definitely go through a specific criteria and through different channels before it actually reaches me, before the proposal reaches me on what we would do to invest into these companies. So we have a chief investment officer, John Backus. We have two investment directors who also go through these proposals, and then we would look into how sustainable and how profitable or what kind of future does this company have. I mean, mind you, it does have to have specific criteria. You know, no factory farming has to be involved, no earth exploitation, no firearms, no gambling, no alcohol, all that other stuff. But there are certain criteria that we definitely invest in, and others that we don't. Pharmaceuticals, I would never invest in a pharmaceutical. It's too binary for my liking. I definitely invest in everything else that you see in our portfolio.
Well, that's quite impressive. I don't know how common that is in the business world. So I wanted to ask you, how was it difficult to align up your business with your personal and moral values?
You know,
and
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was going to say if you have any advice for someone who wants to do the same.
Well, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, then you shouldn't be doing it at all. And if you're just investing just for the sake of investing, then some people do that in a great way. I mean, Warren Buffett is a great example. I wouldn't invest in Pepsi or Coke, whichever one he invested in. I think it was Coke. But Dairy Queen, I wouldn't invest in Dairy Queen, but he did. At the end of the day, what criteria are you most interested in? And then go for it at the end of the day. As long as there's no real harm, as long as you don't contribute negatively to I don't know, your health, to the environment, then there's nothing wrong with how people take their companies forward. It's sort of a slippery slope, and I get that. And at the end of the day, look, not everyone is going to invest in companies that have a positive impact. I mean, there are companies that have no impact really. I mean, generally, no impact really. I mean, we invest in a company, Casper. We invested in Casper, which is a betting company. The most positive thing that comes out of that is you have a good night's sleep. I mean, but there's no positive outcome like Memphis Meat has, or like Geltor, or like Blue Nalo, or other companies that we've Beyond Meat, for God's sake. So all these other companies have got their own contributing factors to the economy and to the environment. So honestly, from my side, is just invest in something that you're passionate in, and invest in something that you are interested in and understand. And that's and by the way, and understand, I keep saying, and understand. You have to understand where you're investing before you just put your money in. I mean, for God's sake, don't invest in something coin just because you think it'll skyrocket. Now, granted, a lot of people made a lot of money from that, but a lot of people lost their shirt over that too. So just be careful from that. And then more importantly, learn a little more about asset allocation. You know what I mean? So if you're going to invest in some sort of cryptocurrency, go for it, for God's sake. But 10%, 5% of what your entire investment portfolio should be, maybe that should be the weight of that type of asset class. But again, invest in people. That's number one. Invest in something that you're really interested and passionate about. And I honestly do believe that if people just took that into consideration, I think a lot of people will make a lot of money from this.
That's great advice.
Thank you.
In your experience, have you come across any resistance in the business world with your ideas?
Oh yeah. I was laughed at when I pitched Beyond Meat 4 years ago. I'd love to look every one of them in the eye right now, but anyway, Beyond Meat was one of the things that I've pitched a lot of people here to really think about and invest in. That was something that didn't go too well. Memphis Meats, same thing. And other companies that I have in my portfolio, some companies that I have in my portfolio. And at the end of the day, look, it's all about tradition again. So the tradition here is really investing in real estate, in the stock market, and stuff that has some sort of material value or traditional value also that they understand, or something people that can comprehend, so to speak. And again, this is the world that we live in right now. This is back then it was 2017 or 18, but this is the world we're living in. It's the companies have changed. The way the companies are operating have changed. Their mandate has changed. A lot of the focus on these companies has changed, and now you see so many companies coming up with huge mandates to do good for the world, as well as contribute to the bottom line of that company, because that's how you become sustainable. The resistance has happened, but at the end of the day, people are moving into that space right now. I mean, I think I have maybe 5 to 7 calls a week asking me, what do you think of Just, and would you invest in Just? And I want to invest in it. How do I get an allocation in Just, or how do I get an allocation in Impossible Foods, and other companies like that? And like, this is great. This is clearly people see that this is the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Really interesting where the future is heading with this.
Really?
Yeah, and speaking of the future where maybe Saudi is going, worldwide, there's dietary guidelines for every country. Currently in Saudi's dietary guidelines, which is set in 2012, it's set on a healthy palm tree structure, and includes 2 to 4 daily servings of dairy products. Would you propose updates to these according to latest science?
I mean, I would propose updates to these in the United States rather than just Saudi. I'd do that even in the whole world, to be honest. No, not the whole. Maybe other places are a little more advanced than others. I mean, the data shows now there's very little debate happening here to where how much people should be consuming red meat. On certain specific people, that might be a benefit to have a lot of red meat or only red meat, but the vast majority of humans, no. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And I respect that. Again, people differ from one person to the other, so you cannot mandate one type of um, diet for the rest of the world and say this is the way you need to live. Again, I'm not mandating. I'm not trying to dictate how people should live their life. I'm just saying that people should definitely have an open mind on governments rather should have an open mind on what are the truly healthy alternatives rather than red meat. And then you just have to educate people. And again, it's all about having the government or governments educate people on the importance of calcium through leafy greens or through dark green vegetables rather than pseudo calcium through milk. There's a lot of debate happening on there, and I think the conclusion is there. So I mean, dairy is definitely an issue, but I don't see that going away anytime soon. I mean, the dairy industry is, I believe it's about an $800 billion market worldwide, and it's projected to go up to about $1 trillion in 2024. The plant-based alternatives, plant-based milks out there represent $5 billion, $8 billion. I'll be generous and I'll say $10 billion worldwide. That's not even a ripple to what's happening in the dairy industry, and the dairy is just going to grow. So this is why I keep talking about the importance of having alternatives rather than just forcing people, dictating people to change their behavior. So what are all the other solutions? Well, there are plenty of companies right now that are doing so many alternatives to cultured dairy. And I mean, hell, Turtle Tree is just one of them, obviously. But that was a company that we're an investor in. We're developing human milk through cellular agriculture. And that's just fascinating for me because you can literally start giving that type of milk to newborn babies or babies if for whatever reason their mom couldn't provide that milk to them, and have a healthier baby rather than consuming some sort of liquid that has been designed to grow a baby calf into a 600-pound cow at the fastest way possible. You know, there are other ways to do it. And if you just think about it in terms of evolution, at least, it just doesn't make sense. Now, I'm not saying cut dairy from your diet, you know, by all means, go for it. But there are alternatives. And once you talk to a human to human, face to face, eye to eye, and you tell them, would you rather have your baby consume human milk, which they were designed to consume, or from another animal? And I think I generally do believe that most people would definitely go for the human part of it. But again, we're just scratching the surface into where the dairy industry is going. It's a huge industry, and I think they should be part of the solution. It's not us against them. That's one of the dumbest ways that you can run a business. You know, it's not. It's always us and them finding solutions together to better this world. I do believe they have the right material for it. They have the right people for it. They have the R&D facility for it. They have the capital for it. Early stage startups don't have that. They don't have the ability to scale as far. So licensing is a great opportunity. Partnering is a great opportunity. And this is what we're doing with our portfolio companies, helping them navigate through these murky waters and pushing them towards partnering with the right companies so that they can scale as fast.
Mm-hmm. Great answer. The cellular agriculture sounds incredibly high tech and amazing. I'm sure lots of people haven't heard of that either as well. So very cool. Yeah. You touched on a myth about the calcium, how a lot of people don't really believe you can get it from milk. Do you have any the biggest myths or common beliefs about food or our system that you wish to set straight? If it's more than one.
Yeah. I don't want. This is just. I sound like a broken record every time I say. Every vegan sounds like a broken record every time they say this. But at the end of the day, it's the same indoctrination that kids have, kids and grown-ups have had to go through for their lives, which is where you get your protein from. The great documentary Game Changers just really debunked that big time. And it's just that it's the protein part of it. It's just where do you get your protein from. And as soon as you sit down with someone for 1 minute, it's not a lecture, for 1 minute, and just really explain to people, wherever your animal gets its protein from is where I get my protein from. You know what I mean? So it's a pretty simple thing, but again, that is the biggest thing. Calcium obviously is a part of it. Nobody talks about fiber, which is a lot more important than any one of those, arguably. But still, people need to understand nutrition a lot more before commenting on where do you get your protein from. And that's the reality of it.
Yeah, very common question. So being healthy is, of course, something you're really passionate about. And you're the president of Saudi Sports for All Foundation. And I've read that one of your goals is to target the obesity epidemic in Saudi. So currently around 60% of Saudi is overweight and inactive. So could you take us through a couple of the successes you've had as your time for Sports for All and your goals for the future?
Sure. So the Saudi Sports for All Federation is, so whomever is in, I don't know, the West, think of it as a YMCA type of entity that really provides facilities and programs and all sorts of activities for people to stay active and be active, so to speak. We've done so many number of programs, especially last year. Last year, I think February, we had our whole year planned, and then obviously COVID hit, and that really shook this federation to its core. We had a meeting with literally all our team. I think it was 32 people. We had in this office actually, and then I told everyone that, listen, you have 2 weeks. Change all our programs from now until the end of the year. Tell me, how can we adapt to a lockdown if a lockdown were to occur? There were no lockdowns then. So we did. And I'm so proud to say that last year was the biggest or highest year in participation in Saudi that ever was before. And it was insane. But we did the team did a lot of amazing programs, whether it's Move to Game, for example. So we partnered with the Saudi Gaming Federation, e-gaming federation, sorry, to do these tournaments. But in order to qualify for these tournaments, you had to walk, for example, 10,000 steps, and if you do that, you qualify to get into that tournament. So that really changed the playing field to where that the known fact that gamers are lazy, blah blah blah, which is not the case in most regards, but certainly is on others. But it included a lot of new things that we can introduce to the public, and yet we saw a bigger, a huge participation in. So we had about 150,000 people participate in that, which was insane. The heart of the lockdown was one of the most fascinating times of my life. We had a program called Beitek Nadik, which is your house, your gym, basically. And then we did videos with influencers, with gym owners, with coaches in these gyms to push out videos so that they can have their own seminars, so to speak, on how your house can be a gym. whether it's to, I don't know, have two bottles of water, that'll be X amount of weight, and you do air squats, and you can do sit-ups, lunges, or whatever. So we did that, and we did a huge online campaign, and we had about 3.5 to 3.7 million impressions on Twitter and Instagram alone, proving how people really wanted to participate in this. One, people were bored. We capitalized on that. I'm not going to lie, but also we took advantage of it because people were bored. So last year was again one of the highest years that the Saudi has ever seen in terms of participation. And we're so excited about how we can carry that through, and hopefully keep the momentum going from the lockdown days to semi-restricted days that we're living in now to 100% open, and having them continue through that. And we're working through so many other ministries or government offices here. So the municipalities, for example, we're working with them to activate parks. So public parks are going to be more active here, and we'll have more equipment there for people. The Ministry of Education, for example, they have, we can open up schools after hours, so that schools don't become just dormant after 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. They can be more of an activity center for the neighborhood, and other programs that we're doing in the Sports for All Federation. And I'm telling you, if it wasn't for the team that we have at this federation, this all wouldn't have happened. We have a rock solid team who are really passionate about doing the stuff that they're doing.
Wow, well, can I just say massive congratulations to you all for such an unpredictable, crazy year that you had last year, that you got that done. That's amazing. And getting people active, that's incredible. One of the things that you were promoting last year, which I was really excited about as a football player myself since childhood.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
was the Saudi Women's Football League. It's super awesome. I wanted to ask as well, how else does Sports for All support women's success and gender equality?
Oh, so our number one rule here is diversity and inclusion. We're open to all sorts of programs that are open for females, for males, and as well as for obviously people with special needs. So those are the things that really come near and dear to our heart, and especially when it comes to Women's Football League, that was a huge that was a huge accomplishment, to be honest. We had a big push and a big support from the sports minister, Prince Abdulaziz Al Faisal, and I'm telling you, without his support, this wouldn't have happened. Without the support of obviously the government to open up the way that they did years ago, and then have us send them a letter for permission, and them sending a letter back saying, why do you need permission for? It was opened 4 or 5 years ago. What are you doing? This is a beautiful time to be alive, to be honest, and to see how the government has totally opened up and totally given women the freedom to do whatever the heck they wanted to do here, obviously within reason, but even for men within reason, obviously. But for that matter, for us, it was a dream come true to see a women's football league. That was unthinkable 3 years ago, 2 years, well, not 3 years ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago. It was unthinkable. We thought it was unthinkable when we started the program, but then it was a moment of awe, when it was announced, and then when we saw these teams play football, and just see the spark in these ladies' eyes was just amazing. I was fortunate enough to be at the final, and I'm telling you, I got choked up. I'm not lying. It was such a beautiful moment to see the hard work that the Sports for All Federation did, to see the fruits of their labor um, 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 happen right in front of them with the females not only playing football but also most likely this community level football league that we did last year is going to hopefully evolve into an official one, hopefully. So we're just the foundation, and then obviously we'll let everyone else take care of the elite part of it. But for the foundation part of the community part, listen, Sports for All Federation started it, and I couldn't be more proud of the team.
That's amazing. Yeah, I also can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah.
Hopefully this year it can things can calm down a little bit. Something can happen with it too.
I totally agree. Yeah, and this year will be a big year. I'll just tell you that much.
Awesome. So I also was curious, what program at Sports for All are you personally most passionate about? If you and why?
Good question. So we have a program. Obviously, we have a bunch of programs, but one of the programs that I absolutely love and is nearest and dearest to my heart, which is the which is one of the programs that we do with international doctors and health physicians and plant-based doctors, and they would come over to Saudi, and then we would work with them on getting work with them and work with the Ministry of Health to get health students who are still studying, obviously, but we would get them to be involved into this program. Lifestyle enhancement conference is what we call it. But we would get the health students or the soon-to-be doctors and just general public, and get them involved into these talks with these world-renowned doctors to start talking about the importance of nutrition and the importance of physical activity in people's lives. And I think, to me, that is one of the most important programs that we'll ever have here in the Sports for All Federation. Why? Because if it was your home, your gym, as I told you, Betik Nadik, if it was Move to Game, or if it was Step Together, or all the other programs that we have, those are all physical activity programs that don't really contribute much to education, as opposed to having world-renowned doctors come to you and telling you and explaining to you how important nutrition is and how you can reverse a lot of severe illnesses, chronic illnesses, and not live with them for the rest of your life. To me, that is one of the most important programs that we have here by far. I can't think of another one that equals that. There are other ones that are a close second, also, I'll say, but this one to me is one of the most important things, because we're really working on educating people, which is really the core of the issue, really, when it comes to nutrition. People just need to understand nutrition, and this is the best way that I think we can deliver that message to them, is through practice as well as through education.
That's incredible. So bringing nutrition and more knowledge to doctors in the region. That's great.
Yeah.
So maybe you have already answered this, but what program at Sports for All do you think has reached the most people and got them physically active? You mentioned during the lockdown that.
Yeah, I mean, during the lockdown, I told you we got an engagement and impressions of over 3.5 million people, or impressions rather. So that was incredible. I think that was a Move to Game, honestly, is one of the biggest ones, to be honest, because a large number of the Saudi population, the youth, specifically the youth segment, are gamers. So if we can tap into them by supporting more leagues, more tournaments, more fun activities, but you have to do 10,000 steps. There has to be a catch to that, obviously, and there's a reward before you enter the tournament because you did those steps, and there is a reward after if you win. And it's really gamifying the experience for people. And this is one of the things that we're really keen on doing, is just gamifying and really giving people the sense of this is a fun activity and a fun place to work, hopefully, but a fun place to be part of these programs. And you know, we're having a great time doing it. I mean, sorry, I'm just going to jump into one more point, which is the point I was talking about last. What we're also working with the Ministry of Health is having doctors prescribe physical activity. I mean, so if you just stop and think about that for a second, you know, it's super important for us to really acknowledge the important work that doctors have, and how people listen to them blindly, and as they. Well, no, they shouldn't, but they should definitely trust but verify. But at the end of the day, also prescribing physical activity is super important, and we're working on that. And I think that would be one of the biggest contributors to lessening the 60% number that you mentioned, and dropping that down. Hopefully, I mean, from my liking, by 50%, hopefully, really, really soon, because it's all about physical activity. It's all about education. You marry those two together, you can have a healthier body.
Great answer. Awesome. Well, I have so many more questions for you, but I really do want to open up to the audience questions.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, I can't see the questions, but I have the lovely Anna next to me, who has her laptop with the questions. So, okay, let's see wow, there's quite a few. Awesome. Okay, let's see how many we can get through. Khaled has really nicely given us a few more minutes of his time. So let's see what we can get through. So the first one is from Intika Alam, who says, we are working on the role of human microbiome in health and disease in diabetes. Do you think personalized diet-based therapy to improve health of human microbiomes can be a great way forward for the future, perhaps using pre-probiotics, organic food, etc.?
Oh, that's such an important question. So one of the stories that I heard recently, and one of the doctors that I follow religiously, which is Dr. Garth Davis, is one of the most important things that he mentioned is is exactly that, is personalized diet, because there's no one pill solution. There's no one size fits all for people. People just differ from person to person, and personalized diet is definitely one of the most important things. Now, granted, that has to be run, quote unquote, properly. But from what I'm reading from your question, I do believe that it can be done, and I do think it should be done in the right way. Organic is one of the most important things, obviously, to contribute to that. But yes, I'm 100% behind that, and I think that's one thing that I would actually seriously think of working together with an organization that would do this in a larger scale.
Great answer. So next one's coming from Nicholas Papianopoulos. He asks, Saudi has environmental and climate limitations when it comes to producing food. Do you think there's a way to develop sustainable food systems here despite the limitations?
100%. We're a desert. I mean, just on its own, we're not meant to be growing crops. You know, at the end of the day, there are certain crops that we're meant to grow, but certainly others that we're not, especially if we're growing these crops to feed the animals so they can slaughter the animals so we can eat the animals. Don't get me started with that endless circle of death. So from my point of view, 100%. And this is what we're seeing with NEOM. This is what we're seeing with the Red Sea project, with Amala. We're seeing with other companies from PIF. From my standpoint, we are definitely looking into the right direction finally on how to grow crops sustainably here in the region, and certain types of vertical farmings. I do believe certain types of aqua farmings are important also. I do believe we need to focus on sourcing waters other than underground water. So I do believe that if we can, there are technologies right now that include sustainably desalinating seawater. Now, if you're going to frown on that or not, that doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, if we're living in a desert, by definition, we live in a water scarce environment. We have to get creative. Whether you like it or not, that's where the water has to be coming from, at least to feed the crops and whatnot. So from my standpoint, yes, 100%. I think that the country is definitely looking to the right direction. Ever since the Vision 2030 was announced, there has been no doubt in my mind that Saudi is on the right trajectory to positively tackle the issues of crop growing here in the region.
I know that KAUST has a great initiative here about growing crops sustainably. So
of course, yes, and KAUST actually. Sorry, you're right. Yes, and KAUST.
Okay, we have to show you when you come.
Oh yes, for sure. Yes, I do. I know exactly which one too. But yes.
Awesome. So next one's from Jamil, and I was curious about this too, actually. If you've watched Seaspiracy, and if you have any thoughts on it.
Well, I have thoughts on it, and I love the message. I think it's important for people to understand how we're destroying the oceans, how we're destroying marine life, how we're destroying the coral reefs, and how we're absolutely destroying the ecosystem in our oceans. And I think it's a tragedy. I think it's appalling, and I think it's a shame on every government that not only allows it but contributes obviously to this. If anything, governments need to be held accountable for all the destruction that's happening. Now, does this documentary show what I just mentioned? Yes, I think it has a few good points, or many good points rather, to show what we're doing to the oceans and how inhumane is an understatement to what we're doing to fish and other marine life. But I also believe that I'd rather stop pointing fingers, and I'd rather just show the solution and just focus on how we should push these solutions, because pointing fingers is not going to get us anywhere. You know, it's at the end of the day, it's people who are voting with their dollars, and it's not the corporations that are doing it because they're evil. At the end of the day, people are paying for it. So that's where corporations are going to flee, going to go towards. Should it be mandated by governments to have these changes happen? Yes, as another subject. Have I seen Seaspiracy? Not yet. It's one of the documentaries that I heard that was pretty graphic, and it's kind of like Dominion, which I urge everyone to watch. It's kind of like I forget what the other.
Conspiracy, maybe.
No, the older one, the Joaquin Phoenix's one. It was really, really graphic.
Earthlings.
Earthlings, there you go.
Yeah.
So it's like I would urge people to watch Earthlings, to watch Dominion, and to watch Seaspiracy. I will definitely watch it. I'm just not mentally prepared to watch it yet, because that's going to destroy me inside. I definitely know I'll have a bad night the entire night. But I will definitely watch it. I mean, Kip Anderson is an amazing human. I will support him wholeheartedly with however I can. And one part is I'll definitely watch his documentary, and I'll definitely recommend everyone to watch it.
Okay. Thanks for that. Okay. So our next question comes from Nilesh Chudha. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Many tropical zones in the world have surplus plant produce, while the other side has a big market. Unfortunately, transport and equal distribution of plant produce at every place are driven by consumer habits and corporate control, but not by sustainability, such that farmers get a good price as well as the consumer pay reasonable costs. Do you also have initiative for sustainable distribution of plant products in the worldwide market?
That's a great question. From our standpoint, as a matter of fact, just today I was pitched on a coffee company or coffee distribution company out of, I think, the US, but it'll focus mainly in Colombia to give fair trade to Colombians, Colombian farmers. This is something that I'm interested in for sure. But I think, it needs to happen on a bigger scale rather than just an individual or an investor scale. I think people need to start, again, voting with their dollars on where they get their produce or they get their products from. And if that means that they're going to shift their desire from a certain product to another simply because it's more sustainable, wonderful. I love that and I champion that, and I'd love to see that. Do I practice that personally? As much as I can, for sure. But again, there are limitations that you said, as you said, it all goes down to, sadly, has to be a top-down approach on having legislation push that through. I personally have got a huge, I'm very optimistic about the future. I'll be honest with you. I'm very optimistic about millennials taking power in governments. I'm very interested and very optimistic with having Gen Z getting in and getting their full voice heard and taking part in the government decision making. Right now, sadly, we're still run. Well, not we, but when I say we, I said maybe majority of the Western world maybe is run by older folk that is very hard to change their ways. It's still a fossil fuel are the future, blah blah blah. While I don't believe solar and wind are necessarily the catch-all solution to everything. I do see the importance of fossil fuel now until we transition out of it, but that'll take decades. I mean, that's not going to happen anytime soon. That's not going to happen in my lifetime. I'll tell you that. Assuming I don't die the next 10 years, but that's going to take much longer than that. But yeah, that's the long answer to your question. I apologize.
No, it's a great answer, and hopefully you have many, many healthy years to come, Khaled. Okay, so Hadi asks, has KBW Ventures invested in a startup in KSA, in the Kingdom? And what do you see the main challenges for a startup in Saudi to start or survive?
Beautiful question. I've been talking about this for at least 6-7 years. I've invested in a couple of regional startups, and I'm looking into about 5 startups here in Saudi and in Egypt. So yes, I'm looking into the region as a whole. I'm definitely not just looking at Saudi. I'm definitely keeping Saudi on the forefront of everything, because I do believe that the potential here is greater than so many other countries around. I keep hearing conflicting statistics, but 60 to 70% of the population is under 30. So we have a really young population that I do believe are very driven to start their own business and to be to really be entrepreneurs. The limitations, legislation right now is an issue. I think it's slowly moving into the right direction. Bankruptcy laws, etc. How easy is it to start up a company? How easy it is to fold a company? God forbid, if things don't go well, etc. So I do believe that we do have a lot more. There's a lot more to do to have a healthy ecosystem. But at the end of the day, the entire region suffers from a shortage of sort of the middle spot of venture raising funds. So I always kid that a startup here can easily get off the ground. Why? Because there's no shortage of moms, aunties, grandmas who are not going to loan or give money to their kid or to their nephew or to their grandson to start their business. But then the real work starts when you start pitching to early stage companies, which they exist. But then you go into the Series C and all the way to about E, so the growth stage. There's a big void here. There aren't any venture capital companies that have that. We do have later stage, which is buyouts, but that's useless. You have to go through the stages to go through the buyout stages, and that's one part that's missing here that I think the ecosystem needs to develop, and it'll take time. So that's not something that a government can wave its wand and have it happen just like that. It'll happen, but we need to have a lot more exposure to the West, a lot more exposure to the East, a lot more exposure to companies that are specialized in these and that specific segment of the market, so that invite them here, and then hopefully they can revive that segment of venture capital.
Great answer. Nadeem actually had a very similar question.
Yeah.
He is the co-founder of Natufia, which is a food tech startup based in KAUST.
Yeah.
And their question was, have you ever invested in agritech in the kingdom? And would you agree to say that food security and sustainability is one of the biggest challenges in the country and the world?
Food security. Well, I'll start with that, to be honest, because that's my bread and butter. Yes, I do believe that food security is the biggest issue facing specifically this part of the world. We've thankfully during the lockdown we didn't experience any traumatic issues with food shortage. But at the end of the day, if I'm not mistaken, 90% of the food, 85, 95 between there, of the food that we consume here in the country is imported. Let's say I'm wrong, let's say 70%, that's still a high number. Let's say I'm wrong and it's 60%, that's still a high number. So food security is one of the most important things that we have to focus on. And the way that we need to focus on these things is to really embrace technology. We cannot shy away from the importance of innovation and technology, and how they are going to be the solution to to a lot of the issues that we have here in the region, food security being one of them. I see centrifuges has to be a part of Saudi Arabia. I see centrifuges that's where you can have cultured cell cultured meat or cell cultured seafood or whatnot. You can also have plant-based proteins. You can also have invest in some sort of vertical farming, which I do believe that PIF already invest in through the Vision Fund, if I'm not mistaken. So we are exposed to it. I just think between now and 2025, we're going to see a huge influx of money going to these specific industries. So yes, food security is one of the most important things. We have to start investing into these companies, which I am at least, but other people or other entities and sovereign wealth funds need to start investing into these companies so that we can have our food security secured, so to speak.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry, I forgot the first part of his question. I focused on the he had the sustainable farming, which I'm actually looking at right now. Natufia. So yeah, I'll look at it and I'll definitely let you know what I think. But from the video that I'm seeing, it looks pretty awesome. But I'll definitely check it out and I'll let you know.
Amazing, great to hear. So next question is a bit off food security, but it goes back towards sports.
Sure.
Wejdan, who I know is a very avid climber, who I climb with too, here in KAUST and outside KAUST, says, I think it would be great to introduce Saudis to different kind of sports that have never been popular, but the new generation might be excited about.
Oh, yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Oh, that's a great question. So our last um, our last focus is football, by the way. We don't focus on football at all, just so Wujdan would understand that. And I know that, actually, I understand that. But we just launched our cricket tournament. And we have about, I think, 16 to 20,000 participants in there. Majority were definitely foreigners, but there were Saudis there. We're starting a rugby league that we're also introducing, and many of them, by the way, are Saudis also. We're introducing, obviously swimming is going to be a big part of it. Basketball is something that we're really, really interested in, and we're probably going to start a league, a community level league soon on that. Handball is something that's interesting. But we're definitely shying away from the well-known sports, and we're definitely focused on the sports that aren't really well known, because end of the day, not everyone wants to be a football player. You know, people just want to have different types of activities, and we have a program right now that's running with the Tennis Federation. We have an amazing president who she just joined about, I don't know, a week ago or so. And we couldn't be more excited to be working with her and getting more people with, you know, a racket in their hand and start, you know, playing some tennis. So that's definitely something that we're really interested in, and you'll see it happen sooner rather than later. One of the important things that I want to understand is that climate plays a big role in deterring people from playing, as well as facilities, the lack of thereof. The lack of facilities is a big issue. So what we're doing is we're building 2 domes right this year, and in the next 5 years we'll hopefully be building another 8 to 10 domes, and these are 15,000 square meter facilities, so about 150,000 square feet of area that you can segment and start playing different types of activities inside, and it'll be 365 days a year. So there you go. We can give people the ability to play tennis, to play football, to play lacrosse, to play whatever activities they want to play all the time. And that's something that we're really, really, really interested in starting very soon.
That's great. Do you know where the domes are going to be opening up? Is in Riyadh or?
So we have one that's in construction in Dammam. We have another one that's going to be in construction the next, hopefully, month in Jeddah, which is going to be near the football stadium. And we're going to have one that's going to hopefully start construction in Riyadh. It'll be north of Riyadh on King Salman Road. Hopefully somewhere there, but we'll start that in probably June or July. So we'll hopefully have 3, and then we're working on having smaller domes in smaller cities and other regions. So we're not just focusing on Riyadh, Jeddah, or Dammam. We just wanted to start our pilot projects here, and then we're going to have smaller, more accessible domes all around Riyadh, all around Saudi Arabia. So north of Saudi, south, northeast, and the likes.
That's amazing.
Really excited about that.
Like everyone who lives here knows, during the summertime, as beautiful as Saudi's nature is, it's quite hard to explore canyons and so on, maybe just sticking to the sea, but that's really, really great. All right, so we have time for a couple more questions, I believe. Next one comes from Lujane, and they ask, for the past few years, I've seen a dramatic growth of American fast food places and cafes in Jeddah, for example. I can't say the same for healthy vegan places, and the current vegan places are way too expensive. How do you see that changing in the future? And will you put any effort to try and change that, if any? Thanks.
So again, Jane, this no one person can change that. Again, it's how people vote with their real, so to speak, or their dollars rather. And just so everyone can understand what a real is. So maybe we have international people, but it all depends on how people vote for their money. You know, and the sad reality is, fast food is definitely a trend. It's definitely something that's going to continue. Do I see it as something that bothersome? Yes, definitely, especially for someone who runs the Saudi Sports for All Federation. Am I going to try to contribute to something there? Yes, I am, obviously. On a personal note, I've already opened up one restaurant in Dubai. That's a whole food plant-based restaurant. We're moving that into Riyadh hopefully very soon, and then we're going to just use that platform to copy and paste all around the region. But again, I mean, it won't be as tasty as, I don't know, fast food burgers, because in the day, those are designed to be addictive, so to speak, with the sodium, with the fats and the trans fats and all that. Those are the type of foods, that the cheese and all that garbage. So it's very hard to open up something as a business and expect people to do the right thing. Um, um, at the end of the day, people are going to do what's convenient to them, and this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to make fast food, or food rather, fast and convenient. So we're working on that with a bunch of companies. We're closing an investment in the next 2 to 3 weeks in a vegan fast food chain. So again, it's not the healthiest place in the world, but it is an American fast food chain. But hopefully that'll be something that'll change people's perspective on how they should eat. But again, that can't happen from one person. That has to happen on a community level.
More holistic change that
Yeah.
has to happen. Great, well, that's very exciting, and we'll definitely go visit Riyadh when your restaurant is open there, for sure. So the second last question is from Zulma, a student here. She asked, is a plant-based diet a privilege? And what would you say to people that believe this, since the ability to make food choices depends on the education you've received, the access to information, options available in the region, etc.?
Well, if you're investing in your health, then the plant-based diet is not a privilege. If you disregard health, then I can see how you can perceive um, plant-based diets as being a privilege. At the end of the day, it costs more to have a salad than it does to have a McDonald's hamburger. That kind of says something. You're going to be paying for that later, but people tend to not think about what's going to happen in the future. People think about what's happening right now. So is it a privilege? I don't think it is a privilege. I think if people really understood the importance of a plant-based diet and what you're paying for now, as opposed to what you're going to be paying for later, if you have a not healthy, so to speak, diet, then I can see how someone can think that. But no, I don't believe that it's a privilege. I think it's something that's common for everyone, and I think it's something that is accessible. And if you really think about it, it's a bunch of ingredients that you put together, and then you have a whole food meal that you can easily feel nourished and feel full from, and as well as feel good afterwards. So I do get the issue. And now maybe that question meant organic as opposed to non-organic. And again, yes, I can see that, but I see the importance of organic. I also see the importance of GMOs. Sadly, that's the reality. I don't think they're going to go anywhere soon. But at the end of the day, if you can afford to have an organic meal, then great. I think you should, because at the end of the day, you will be paying for that later in your life. I'm not saying GMOs, you're going to be paying for GMOs for the rest of your life. That's a whole other subject I'm not going to get into. But other crops that aren't organic, you're definitely contributing negatively to your health. And your health is your wealth. We've heard that hundreds of times. So definitely invest in your health before you start thinking of where should you be spending your money on, other than your health. I mean, that's something that's going to live with you forever. Well, at least until you're alive.
Great answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we're almost out of time, there's many more questions for you, but hopefully we can do this again sometime. But I just
Love
want
to.
to ask if you have any final remarks for our students or KAUST community.
Oh, one, I want to visit you. I'm totally bummed that I couldn't do it last year, unfortunately, but very soon, hopefully this year, I'll be able to come visit and just hang out and just see KAUST. But other than that, follow your dreams. Make sure that they're realistic. Follow your passion and make sure that they're also realistic in terms of having you have or getting you to have a life that's sustainable. That's something that you can invest in. That's something that you can contribute to positively to your community and to yourself and to your family. Invest in yourself, invest into your future. I mean, you're already in KAUST, so that's a first check. What are you going to do after that is the biggest question. Saudi has got a huge opportunity and you have a huge opportunity to give Saudi what you've gotten from the university. So I think the doors are open for I think Saudi has opened the doors really, really well for entrepreneurs to start their own businesses and really pursue their passions. And there's no better timing than now. The world needs people who are driven, who are smart, and who are ethically bound to do the right thing. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents worth, honestly.
Brilliant. Well, Khaled, it's been an absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you. I just want to thank you so much for giving us your precious time, being so open and having this discussion with us. We've learned a lot about your visions for the future. So again, we'd love to receive you when you can come to KAUST, and we'll be happy to show you as well our beautiful coral reefs like the one behind us as well, and all the research we're doing here.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us as well and for
Thank
your
you very
questions.
much.
And we really hope to see you at the next Students for Sustainability seminar as well. Thank you all.
Michelle, Iman, thank you very much.